overlay, I guess you could say, or outline. So that's what I'd be doing there. As far as colonization, since I can colonize in my own system, I'm just going to right click on the first system here and hit colonize. And since there's one that has 2,000 development cost, I'm going to do that first. So it's first colonization fleet, no cost to that, at least not until I actually develop it. Oh, this is a positive development. That's why there's no cost, I think. Or I don't know what the problem. Yeah, no, it's just really low. Anyway,
we'll get them
so they'll do that. Now, when I end the turn, because it is turn-based, that'll all go through. Another thing that you need to work on, of course, right away, your first turn, is research. So here's the research menu, Flask up here. And the research is most likely going to look pretty overwhelming because there's a lot of branches, and when you think you've got the branches figured out, you find out that there's a whole hell of a lot more branches. Each branch you research can spawn more branches of technology. Now you can navigate through it this way, or if you know what icon you're looking for, like if I'm looking for engineering technology, which I know is a wrench, I can just click on that and it'll take me right there. Engineering research is important in the beginning because you can get access to be able to refit your or retrofit your ships. You can also get access to freighters early. Getting access to freighters is a really good way of making money for trade. But since you need that trade. I'm looking in the wrong section, not industrial. Okay. Since you need that trade, you want to be able to make a civilian station. So you're going to want to do FTL economics. And to research something, it tells you how long it's going to be.
Full funding received, Director. Thank you.
You just click on that, obviously. It tells you it's 19 turns. Now, this is determinant right here. This slider determines how much research or money you're putting into research. If you pull it left, you put more into savings. If you pull it right, you put more into research. Now, one thing you'll notice, interestingly enough, is it started at 16 turns, right? So you want to get it below 16. So here's 15, 14, 13, 12, 13, 14. So what happens is when you put too much money into it, it'll actually start going back up. So you have to be careful. And it's also very touchy in the beginning of the game. You know, do you want to risk possibly going bankrupt, putting a lot of money into tech? It depends on how important that tech is to you in the very beginning. And I would say FTL economics for me is pretty major, so I don't mind putting that money into it. Now, there's something important about tech. You'll notice these lines are like a yellowish orange. That means you can research it directly. You'll notice that these, now this is just not just like a pretty effect here, little rave going on. These lines are blue, and they're flashing. Now this is what this means. Basically, you have no practical knowledge of how shields work. In this case, they're shields. So you start with directed energy, which is, you know, everybody starts with the base tech for everything. If I come up here, the deflector shields, let's say I cancel that for a second. Instead of saying research, it says study feasibility, 12 turns. So it's 12 turns, and sometimes it's less because you get breakthroughs, things like that.
It's a very exciting possibility.
And what you're doing at this point is researching the idea of deflector shields. You want to know whether or not it's even feasible for you to do, whether it's possible. So once you do that, it can take up to 12 turns in order to figure out what your percentage chance is of researching that. Once that's done, it'll come up with a screen and say 90%. Good chance, very good chance of completing it. And then it'll ask you if you want to research it or you just want to not research it and go into the, sort of do it manually, go into the research screen yourself. If it's 90%, I say go for it. Now, with research, let's say it says 10% feasibility. You'd have to get really lucky, in my experience in this game, for that 10% to actually work out okay. For me, even with deflector shields researched, it took many decades for me to get regular shielding. For some reason, shields are a bitch. But you'll notice, since it's a branching thing, this is connected to shields as well as directed energy. I have directed energy. What I don't have is deflector shields. So while I'm never going to use deflector shields, and I don't recommend them for anyone, because they look ugly as hell, and they're actually only protecting in a cone the front of your ship, whereas shields protect the whole thing, like in Star Trek. I wouldn't recommend getting it, but I do have to recommend getting it if you want to go for shields, because researching this adds to the possibility of researching this. So having both of these makes it a lot higher percentage chance. So what it means when you have a low percent chance to possibly research something. What's most likely going to happen to you is you're going to get to 100% research, and it's going to tick over 100% and keep going. So you'll be at like 110, 120. If it gets to closer to 200%, what's probably going to happen is it's going to fail outright. And what it's representing is going over budget. So think about the Joint Strike Fighter, think about, the crap that our government works on half the time goes over budget. So it's taking longer than you want it to, and you're actually ending up spending more money researching it. Now, if it fails, it'll take a little while, but eventually if you look back, you can actually study feasibility again, which generally doesn't take very long because you've already studied it once before. There is a possibility that it will be a higher percentage chance because maybe you have more base bonus to your research projects because you've built some research stations, whatever. Or maybe you researched deflector shields and you didn't have it before. So whatever the chance is, again, you basically get a second chance to research it. And it can fail again, blah blah blah. It failed for me 3 times before I got it, so... Well, Serranus, it's gotten a lot better, really. Most of the reviews for this game are made in 2011, and a lot has changed since, midway through, or rather, the end of 2011 even. They put a lot of work into fixing this. Now, I'm not going to say it's perfect. It's still got a memory leak, which most Paradox games have, and it's still got some strange little bugs every once in a while, and we get a crash every once in a while, but it's really not that bad, considering. But it's really much better than I thought it was. So anyway, I'm going to go back. Not that I really want to do deflector shields, but it's okay because I'm not actually going to start the game here. I'm not going to actually go to turn 2. Okay. So that would be the research screen. And now, in your head, you might be wondering, okay, I put that money into research, and how much money do I really have? I have 100,000, but what am I going to have next turn? How much am I making? So this pie graph here is your empire management screen, where it shows this is your income, but of course that's not what you're going to end up with because you've got expenses. Station maintenance is a killer in the beginning because you start with a rather advanced naval base, considering if you were to build it yourself, it would take you, I think, 2 or 3 upgrades to get to the same level. So you've got 100,000 in station maintenance alone, and apparently I've already got corruption, which is actually pretty sad because I don't really have any planets that are outside of my province, but whatever. So here you can see how much money you're putting into research. Overall, because of how much money you're making, and the fact that you're not spending much on fleet maintenance, you see that you're ending up with still being in the green. You're still making money, even with all that money into research. It's only 30,000 though, so if you plan on making a new fleet for colonization or colonizing a planet, you run out of money really, really fast. So that's important to know. There are other little things that are pretty self-explanatory on the screen, so I'm not going to really go over those unless there are questions. The only thing that isn't self-explanatory is this, which is sort of a barometer of how your government is. This side is sort of kind of capitalist, I guess. It's very based around money. This is about more anarchy, and this is about more sort of fascism, around here. or rather plutocracy, things like that. And there are effects to that. You can make yourself quite a lot of money by raising taxes sometimes. Now, apparently, I make jack shit raising taxes to 6. I think it's because I'm putting so much money into research. That's really it, because it's a percentage thing. So, hey, Kane. Yes, I picked a research bad. That's right, Sir Honest. Maybe I can actually, I don't know, get people to see the light here and see that the game is really not as bad as it was in even a fraction of the way it used to be, and that the devs really made good on any promises that they made about making the game much better than it was, and to refund people and things like that. Now, I mentioned province, and I mentioned corruption. So here's how it works. I'm going to change my views, and these views are actually useful as hell. The terrain view shows you what clusters you're in, things like that. So if you have, like, we're in one map and there's a bunch of arms to the galaxies, and we each start in one of the arms, this would show you what the name of your arm is, so you can go and say, hey Ninja, I'm in the Becrux, or Becru, or whatever the hell it would be in French. Arm or whatever, and then they'd be able to find you. But that's just the terrain one. There is actually a trade map mode that will pop up. I'll probably have to load a game just to show you guys that. There's sensor range, which I've never actually looked at because I've never really had a reason, but this shows you how far, but you already know how far you can see, because this is like, okay, I can see these jump lanes, after that I can't really see. Support range, which, you know, that's more of a trial and error thing. You don't really need to know what your support range is, because when you go to try and survey something, if you can't reach it, it won't let you survey it. So, but provinces. So provinces are really important. We thought that provinces were pretty much just for show. You know, just something to say, okay, I want to group this together so I can, like, at a glance, I know, okay, I want to go see this province, whatever. Actually, provinces are extremely useful. So, I start with this province of these 3 systems, and by default, in the beginning, 3 provinces is all you can put, or 3 systems is all you can put into a province. If you click on this star, this is the... Okay, Tris. If you click on this star, you can put planets in, or systems into a new province. So this would be, these 3 would be a perfect province up here. Once you're done putting them in a province, it'll ask you to pick a capital for the province. So I'd probably pick the middle one, or maybe even the one that's connected directly with the jump lane to the rest. And then you can name it, which apparently the game decided this really gay name for my province of New Africa, which I have no idea why anyone would put Africa in space, but we won't go into that. So here's the benefit to having provinces, though. Provinces increase your trade income between these planets that are in it, and they reduce corruption. So that number can get pretty inflated for corruption, and what provinces are saying as far as corruption is concerned is, now you've put a governor in charge of these 3 systems. The governor is going to crack down on corruption and is going to streamline trade. I guess you could say bureaucracy is making things better, a small amount of bureaucracy. So provinces are very important, and really they cost nothing to do, so no reason not to. So that's it for provinces. Get out of that map mode again. Not really. Surround us. Okay, so next is the design ships interface. I'm going to show you this real fast, because there are so many possibilities, it will make your mind bleed. Well, actually, I want to go back real fast and say that your survey fleets and your enemy survey